Hey, hockey fans, welcome to our TSN YouTube channel. Time to bring you an update on what's going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Here's Mark Masters from the Toronto Maple Leafs practice facility. Just to be clear, the team practices on the ice just playing shinny. The Leafs actually had an off day today. All right, Mark, let's get to it. The Boston Bruins now lead the Leafs 2-1. And the question is, has Brad Marchand broken the Toronto Maple Leafs yet again? We could talk about what he did or maybe didn't say on his way by the bench after he added the empty netter. But really, beyond that, the Leafs just seem to have absolutely no answer for Brad Marchand in game number 3.
Yeah, the Maple Leafs don't have that, right, Gino? A Stanley Cup champion in their core as their captain. And Game 3 wasn't just the Brad Marchand game. It was the Brad Marchand day. Head coach Jim Montgomery telling us afterwards that he could tell his team was going to have a good game because of how locked in Marchand was at the morning skate, how he was barking at the coach to get things going, even though they were 3 minutes early. He loved that, and Marchand set the tone in so many different ways for the Boston Bruins in that game. He doesn't get flustered. He stays on the right side of the loss somehow, much to Sheldon Keefe's chagrin. So what a performance by Brad Marchand. He gets that big goal. He ices the game. He's just, it seems like he's in the heads of the Leafs. It was just a great performance from a guy who's been there and done that.
I want to stop you for a sec because when I heard Sheldon Keefe out of those words, I went, really, is this what we're going to do now? Is this what we're going to use as an excuse that Brad Marchand is drawing penalties? I got an idea. Maybe don't hack Marchand against the wrist. I got an idea. Maybe don't go after Jeremy Swayman between the whistles while everybody else is watching a television commercial back at home. Don't poke the bear. Instead of complaining about the kind of penalties he can draw, don't poke the bear. Am I wrong on this, Mark?
No. And Keefe also called out that penalty that Max Domi took in Game 1, slashing the wrist of Brad Marchand, calling it undisciplined and a penalty you can't do. You can't cross the line there. Tyler Bertuzzi admitted he took a really bad penalty late in Game 2 that could have been quite costly by slashing the back of Brad Marchand's leg. Sheldon Keefe, before Game 3, also pointed out that this is a team, when I asked him about Marchand, that is very good at making it very clear there's been an infraction, so selling the calls. Listen, there's going to be gamesmanship in a series, and I'm sure Keefe is hoping that the fellows who are officiating Game 4 heard his comment and will have that in the back of their minds, and will be, when they're looking at a situation like what happened between Marchand and Tyler Bertuzzi in the sequence leading into the Trent Frederic goal in Game 3, that maybe there'll be a whistle there and both guys will go to the box, or just Marchand. You're lobbying for calls, so I think this is all part of the game within the game. We got 2 days off between games in this series, okay? The coaches are going to do everything they can to try and influence things.
Here's the deal. Marchand is not only a pest, but right now he's producing. He's tied for the scoring lead in the playoffs right now with Connor McDavid. I appreciate the fact McDavid's played 2 games, Marchand's played 3, but should the Leafs not be more concerned about trying to figure out a way to contain this guy rather than worry about what he's saying?
I think the Leafs have to worry kind of about themselves a little bit and not as much about Marchand. They got to get their special teams in order. They got to find a way to generate more offense. Until Marchand broke through in Game 3, it's not like we were talking about Marchand being the big difference maker in this series. He had some moments, but it was Austin Matthews who was the star coming through in Game 2 and seemed to have some momentum. It was, a so-so night for Toronto's top line in Game 3, to use the words of Bertuzzi, and I'm sure the Leafs will be looking for Matthews to bounce back in a way in Saturday's game. So I don't think you want to get too fixated on Marchand. You want to focus on getting back to what you're doing well and solving some of the issues like special teams.
Mark, I could not agree with you more. I get the feeling that what the Leafs are doing right now is focusing on excuses rather than trying to come up with answers. Another one popped up last night. This is not from the team. This was from Joe Bowen, the legendary Hockey Hall of Fame play-by-play man of the Toronto Maple Leafs radio broadcast, where he called out the Toronto Maple Leaf fans, saying they're way too quiet, they're not supportive enough, and they're part of the reason the Leafs can't win on home ice in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You've been at the Leafs home games at the playoffs for years now when they've made the playoffs. Is Joe Bowen right about this? Is that a factor? Or is this yet another distraction from the Toronto Maple Leafs dealing with what the real problem is?
Well, certainly the Leafs can't get worried about what the fans are doing. That would be a bad use of their time and energy. Listen, it's a different atmosphere than Boston for sure, different atmosphere than different buildings. Boston's got more of a rambunctious feel for sure, but I find it to be a good vibe in the building for Leafs playoff games. When Ryan Reeves was laying some hits in Game 3, it really started to shake a bit, and that was great to hear, and I'm sure the Leafs appreciated that. So it's just another distraction that I don't think serves the Leafs any good to talk about. I didn't think it was helpful. It was kind of eyebrow raising when Keefe brought up that the fans were too into it in that regular season final home game and wanting Matthews to score his 70th goal. So listen, the fans will get into it if they have something to cheer about. The Leafs have to focus about giving them something to cheer about.
What can they do about Samsonov? Right now, they're certainly pot committed with Samsonov right now. He gives up that goal, high, short side. Summer suggested that maybe he was distracted by the fact that he thought there was a penalty coming up, and then there wasn't. He got distracted. He lit in that lame goal. Samsonov ranks 10th in save percentage among the playoff goalies right now. To make matters worse, Jeremy Swayman, the other end of the ice for the Bruins, is number 1 in save percentage in the league. Is there any way you consider making the move to Joseph Woll?
I don't think so. I think, as you said, they're kind of committed to Samsonov. I don't think he was terrible. But again, the goaltending battle swung back to the Bruins in Game 3 because Swayman was so good. And you mentioned the Frederick goal is one that I'm sure Samsonov would like to get back. We did not hear from Samsonov after the game. I had sent in a request, but he was not one of the players made available to the media after the game. So I'm sure we'll hear from him after tomorrow's practice here. I don't think, yes, you need Samsonov to be good, but the bigger issue right now is Swayman. Because if Swayman's playing like this, it's going to be hard for the Leafs to win this series. I mean, they can't beat him, right? He's 5-0 against them this season. And today, very interesting to hear Jim Montgomery mentioning that he thinks that bump by Max Domi into Swayman during the TV timeout is maybe a sign that Swayman is in the heads of the Leafs. Now, I asked Keefe about that. No surprise. He doesn't buy it. He says he senses no frustration from his scorers about the chances not falling. He says by that logic, every time Boston is targeting Matthews or Marner and bumping into them, well, then those guys must be in Boston's head. So a war of words kind of breaking out a little bit here today. The game within a game, more gamesmanship perhaps. But for the Leafs, they got to find a way to get to Swayman and hope that Samsonov, he bounced back from Game 1, was really good in Game 2, is going to do what he's done all season and bounce back well.
All right, one last question before I let you go, my friend, and that is any word on William Nylander at all?
As the Nylander turns, right? That's been kind of the storyline every day in this series. The Leafs did not hold a practice today. We didn't see anybody on the ice. Sheldon Keefe did say that the 2-day break between games in this series will help. Of course, it will help and benefit Nylander. They are trying to give him as much time as possible to feel good enough to play. But no further insight on that. He was asked about reports about what the injury may be. He says we're sticking to our policy of not addressing that. So it looks like he's trending certainly in the right direction, having been on the ice multiple times now. It appears like he has been ramping up. It feels like there's optimism surrounding him playing in Game 4. But the question, Gino, is going to be, what do you get out of him? This is a guy who's not used to missing time. He hasn't missed time like this really in years and years. And now he's being thrust into a situation where there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to be a difference maker in the series. He can do it. He certainly can. But it's not like you can maybe necessarily bank on him entering the series and just being the lights-out 40-goal, 98-point winger he was in the regular season. It's going to be interesting. At this point, the Leafs, though, they just want him back. He would help on the power play, you would think, for sure. And they have to get the power play going. 1 for 11 in the series. Sheldon Keefe saying today he likes the chances that they're getting. He said he counted 11 high-danger opportunities from the slot in the last 2 games. Nylander's the kind of guy who can bury those chances. So his return would be huge, especially, I feel like, on the power play right now.
No doubt about it, because right now the Leafs power play is 14th of the 16th team in the playoffs. To make matters worse, Boston's power play is at 50%, third best. They're 5 for 10. That contrast right now is just killing the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mark Masters of the Leafs practice facility. Toronto Maple Leafs trail the Boston Bruins 2-1 as they get set for Game 4 in Toronto on Saturday.